Good afternoon. Cheryl Zondi has wrapped up her testimony at the trial of Timothy Omotoso and his co-accused Lusanda Sulani and Zukiswa Sitho. Zondi told the court that the Jesus Dominion international leader sexually assaulted her from around 2010 to 2015. At the time, Zondi was just 14 years old. Omotoso and his co-accused faced more than 60 charges. Newzroom Afrika's Siphosethu Booi was in court. She joins us now. Siphosethu, good afternoon to you. Cheryl Zondi having to testify for a second time. What did she tell the court?
Well, nothing different to what was actually said by Cheryl Zondi, Stephen, in the previous trial. You remember that she also detailed the fact that Timothy Omotoso had called her to her room, to his room rather. And at the time, she was thinking the first time she was there, she was being called to an office. And when she realized that he was in his bed, that for her was shocking, because she says she has never seen a man of God in just boxes, or rather the man of God's legs. Furthermore, she added and told the court that he would ask her to lock the door. It became very graphic, Stephen. I must say this disclaimer, that he would ask her to close the door, lock the door, take off her clothes, and actually get into bed with him. And she just details the horrific scenes, and she'd break out and literally just cry and take seconds to just compose herself to telling the story over again. You remember this is the second time she was giving testimony to the court. Furthermore, she says that upon her return to the church after 2010, you remember this happened between 2010 and 2012, she left the church and then returned in 2015 upon her having conversations with one of the girls who was still at the church, who had replaced her after she had left. And this lady telling her that things have changed. So Cheryl needed to come back because things have changed, and upon her arrival she was met by accused number 2, Lusanda, Sulani, who had fetched her at the airport, took her to the house of Timothy Omotoso that was in Umlazi in Durban, rather Umhlanga. That's where she says she realized that things really did not change, because after the crusade in Gqeberha, she was still being summoned back to Timothy Omotoso's room, and the same sexual assault and offense would actually happen, Stephen, to an extent that at some point Timothy Omotoso could see that she wasn't pleased to being there. She started to be a bit of a rascal, showing that she really didn't want to be there anymore and she had plans to leave. And at some point, Timothy Omotoso saying to her, I don't know who's telling you or who's speaking to you, but this person is deceiving you, Cheryl. I can see that you want to run away from me. And at the time, she says she never told anyone about the plan she had of escaping Timothy Omotoso. Furthermore, she adds that she needed to pack her clothes in a suitcase that was not appealing, or that one could actually look at and suspect that she was planning to leave. And she eventually left the house in 2015 around August, during the time where there was a crusade that was expected to take place. Furthermore, she says at some point Timothy Omotoso had even said that Cheryl was tired. That was during the time where she was being a rascal, just misbehaving, treating him in a manner that could tell that she no longer enjoyed what it is that he was doing to her, saying that, how old is your sister? Asking Cheryl how old her sister was. And she says at the time her sister was 6 years younger than her, meaning she was 13 at the time. So these were just some of the gruesome scenes, and also just the details that Cheryl Zondi took us through the same days, or rather what happened to her during the time where she was still a part of this church, saying that she protected her mother. She was afraid to tell her mother that actually she was correct by saying that nothing could possibly change, but she was just so scared that her mother now needed to save her again from a man that she had already told her would never change. So she stayed long enough to have a plan in motion for her to eventually escape the house in Durban where Timothy Omotoso was. And furthermore, she added that he would actually ask that they pray after each time he had finished sexually assaulting her. And at this extent, this was a thing that happened regularly, at a point where she would go numb in some instances. Furthermore, saying that this was a very traumatic time for her, because Omotoso was a very well-respected man, a man that was that she deemed had superpowers and was powerful. And the people that went to Omotoso's church were gangsters who hid behind the fact that they have repented. There were police that went to the church. even lawyers. So she was more afraid of what the people of the church could do to her should she come out and say that this man had done this and that to her. Furthermore, she also explained the fact that her and Dolly, for some extent, seemed to be the two people that Omotoso really abused more, Dolly being Vuyokazi Nondlazi, the witness that was before Cheryl Zondi. Furthermore, also saying that, well, Lusanda Sulani was aware, accused number 2, was aware of the fact that this man was actually sexually assaulting us, because at some point she even referred to us as daddy's wives. That's the term that they used to call Pastor Timothy Omotoso at that house in Durban in Umhlanga, Stephen. So the cross-examination is expected from Peter Durban tomorrow. That's where Zondi will then be cross-examined with regards to some of the testimony that she gave today, just to try and place the two accused. Also, lastly, accused number 3, Zukiswa, Sitho. If one is also wondering, how did she come about in the case? Well, Sitho was apparently a designated driver that was chosen by Omotoso to be the one that actually drives him around when he was here in Gqeberha in particular. Furthermore, Zondi saying that Sitho was actually Timothy Omotoso's partner earlier on in her days when she was also a part of the church, and then she obviously progressed and graduated within the church ranks, and that's when she got the job of being the designated driver of Timothy Omotoso. But saying that there was no way that the two could not have known that they were sexually assaulted by Timothy Omotoso, because these were discussions that would be had amongst the girls in front of accused number 2, in specific Zukiswa Lusanda Sulani, I meant to say, Stephen. So that cross-examination is expected to happen tomorrow morning at 9:30 here at the Gqeberha High Court.
Siphosethu, Booi, thank you very much indeed. Very difficult trial for so many of the people who have to give evidence in that trial. More updates, of course, from Siphosethu tomorrow.